Jerry, you ready to go?
Yes.
All right. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the regular meeting of the Lincoln Lancaster County Planning Commission of August 5th, 2020. A printed agenda is available outside the hearing room, and a copy of the full agenda, including the staff reports, is available at the front of the chambers with the clerk. The Open Meetings Act is posted just inside the doors and to the back of the room. In order to meet the required social distancing protocols, we must limit the amount of people inside the chambers. Staff is assisting individuals who are present and wish to testify on items on today's agenda by ensuring that each person has signed in. We are requiring attendees in the chambers to sit in a socially distanced manner, 6 feet apart from other people not in your immediate group. Once you have testified, you should exit the chambers using the doors to the right of the dais, and then the next testifier can come to the microphone and begin testifying. In addition, for the added protection of all involved, the Planning Commission will be allowing testimony on agenda items by video conference for individuals who pre-registered with the Planning Department prior to today's meeting. This testimony will be taken following the completion of live testimony for each item, based on position. If you are parked in the parking garage across the street to the north, the gate is open and no parking coupons are needed today. Out of courtesy for those attending this meeting, the chambers, the commissioners, and the staff, cellular telephone usage is not permitted in these chambers during any portion of this meeting. We appreciate your cooperation. There are no final action items before the Planning Commission here today. The first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held July 22nd, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jerry?
And that was Edgerton?
Ryman Yost.
Ryman Yost?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, it's typically,
Edgerton's not even here.
It's the Edgerton chair.
Hello. Okay. This is for the approval of the minutes of July 22nd. Campbell.
Yes.
Finnegan.
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
Ryman Yost.
Yes.
Shear.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
The next item of business is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be called at the same time and will not be scheduled for a public hearing unless there is a request from someone wishing to speak or at the request of a commission member. I will ask Jerry to read all of the consent agenda items into the record. Once those items are read, she will then ask if anyone is wishing to speak. If you wish to speak on an item on the consent agenda, we would ask that you stand and state that item. That item will then be removed from the consent agenda and scheduled as a separate public hearing under Section 3 of today's agenda. All items remaining on the consent agenda will be voted upon in total with a motion of approval. Jerry, could you please call the consent agenda?
Yes, we have one item. Item 1.1 is change of zone 17030B to amend the existing planned unit development to include a waiver to reduce the required parking on property generally located at 88th Street and Bobtail Road. Are there any ex parte communications to be disclosed on this item?
Looks like there's not.
Are there any ex parte communications that took place or additional information you learned while visiting this site?
No.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this agenda item? If so, please stand and state that item or your desire.
Anyone wishing to speak? Doesn't look like it. All right, I will entertain a motion.
I'd move we close the public hearing.
Actually,
Oh, we don't have to do that?
Consent
We-
agenda, we just.
It's consent. I move we approve the consent agenda.
thank you.
Second, Joy?
Thank you.
All right, Jerry?
Okay, Campbell,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Ryman Yost,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
There are no requests for deferral, so we'll now proceed to the public hearing. The staff will make a brief presentation. The applicant will then be requested to present his or her testimony, followed by those who wish to testify in support, and then followed by those who wish to testify in opposition. The staff will then be given an opportunity to respond to the testimony, and then the applicant shall have the opportunity for rebuttal. If, during your testimony, you have copies of documents or materials you would like to be distributed to the Planning Commission members and or included as a part of the record, please provide that information to the clerk. Each person testifying should state their name and address and shall have 5 minutes to speak unless additional time is requested and granted. The timer will go off after 4 minutes. Then you will have 1 minute to wrap up your testimony. The Planning Commission will vote immediately at the close of the public hearing unless the commission votes to defer the action or continue the public hearing. Jerry, please call the first public hearing item.
Okay, item 4.1 is change of zone 20024 from H3 Highway Commercial District to R4 Residential District and from I1 Industrial District to H3 Highway Commercial District on property generally located at North 27th Street in Old Dairy. Staff recommendation is for approval. Are there any ex parte communications to be disclosed?
I don't see any.
Are there any ex parte communications that took place or additional information you learned while visiting this site?
Doesn't look like it. Rachel.
Rachel Jones, planning staff. This is a change of zone requested by the potential developer of property at 3971 North 26th Street, and it also involves several other parcels. The location is at North 27th Street and Old Dairy Road. Okay, and the proposed property to be developed is here, zoned H3 Highway Commercial. The request is to rezone it to R4 Residential, and this lot has been vacant for a number of years. There is residential development to the north here and to the west here. Staff is supportive of residential on the site. However, the support is contingent upon rezoning of the I1 industrial property surrounding it within 300 feet because industrial zoning is not desirable near housing due to the potential hazards. And the I1 property is proposed to be rezoned to H3 commercial are identified on the map. They include 3 restaurants here, here, and here, and then a vacant property west of the Sonic. It also includes the private roadway for North 26th Street and a small outlot for detention. And the properties to be rezoned, our restaurants are vacant, as I mentioned, so they do not require industrial zoning because restaurants are allowed in the H3 district. The next exhibit is showing the future land use of the area. We're located right here. And as you can see, the future land use of this North 27th corridor is all red, which is commercial, due to the mostly commercial character of the area. And that supports this proposed change of zone. And so rezoning these properties would not only allow the site to be developed with housing, this site to be developed with housing, but also remove the industrial zoning near existing housing. And the city has approved other rezonings like this of I1 that were discussed in greater detail in the staff report. So I will now turn it over to Chris Schroeder from the Health Department to give their thoughts.
Good afternoon.
Chris.
Nice to see everybody again. Chris Schroeder with the Health Department, and we are here in support of this application because it helps to protect the public health and safety by separating incompatible uses. You know, we've been making these types of recommendations for many years, and just for fun this morning, I went back and looked at some of our documentation, and clear back in 2000 is when we started talking about separating incompatible uses, especially vulnerable uses, you know, child cares, residential zoning from industrial uses. I guess the direct connection to the zoning code is the types of uses that are allowed in industrial zoning, but more specifically, we're concerned about the types and quantities of hazardous materials that these uses, industrial zoning, that can, you know, manufacture, store, produce within the zoning. So what we've agreed upon is to recommend a minimum of a 300-foot separation between industrial zoning and residential zoning. And we always get asked, well, where do you come up with the 300-foot recommendation? And it is based upon data that's found in this manual. This is produced by the United States Department of Transportation. This is their emergency response guidebook. And so within here, there's all different types of chemicals, and it will list the protection distances or isolation distances. In general, they're recommending around 300 feet, sometimes less, sometimes more. When you're talking about some of the more toxic airborne hazards, it will be more than 300 feet. So again, that's sort of what we kind of landed on, the 300-foot number. So again, we're here in support of this. It improves an existing condition to help protect the existing residences from the existing industrial zoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris? Doesn't look like it. Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
Thank you.
Any questions for Rachel? I have one question for you, Rachel. Can you discuss a little bit the ownership structure of the properties located in I-1 and their agreement or consent to the rezoning?
Sure. So, first of all, you don't have to be the owner of a property to request a change of zone over it. So that's the circumstances here for the other properties in question to be rezoned to H3. And you wonder just about the makeup of the properties as far as their ownership, or?
Well, I guess, can you discuss any interaction that the applicant that you're aware of via or the city is aware of has had with the owners of the properties to the east?
Sure. Okay. It was recommended to the applicant that they coordinate ahead of time with these owners to inform them about the potential change of zone and refer them to the city with any questions. So they did that. They did their best to contact the owners ahead of time. So.
And had you heard it from anyone?
We heard it from one of the restaurants, not any specific opinion one way or the other, but they were gonna, run it up their corporate ladder. We also have heard from the owner of the lot north of Old Dairy Road, which contains the Sonic. It's located here.
Okay.
And it also contains a company called Blue Ox to the north, but that Blue Ox portion is not being rezoned with this.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel. Any other questions for Rachel? Okay. Is the applicant here?
I believe they're gonna, oh, go ahead. I was thinking they were gonna testify via Zoom.
Oh, okay. Well, if the applicant's here, we'd love to have you come forward. And we would take any testimony from you that you would like to give. Hello. Can you please start with your name and address?
Aaron Bird, 1358 Shire Lane, Eagle, Nebraska.
So could you discuss a little bit about your interactions with the neighbors to the east that are falling under the I-3 to H3 zone change?
Sure. The property that's in discussion to be rezoned for the residential R4 development was brought to me 2 months or so ago, maybe a little longer. And in order with communication with Rachel in the planning department, was strongly suggested and recommended to contact these owners or restaurants and let them know of what we were proposing to do and why we were proposing to do it. During that process, we were able to speak to the Mansky, I believe his name is Glenn, that Sonic and Blue Ox, and then the outlot to the north of Old Dairy. met him out there and kind of proposed what was going to happen, what we were wanting to achieve, and he did not. He wasn't cited one way or the other, and was supposed to get back in touch with me. I left another message for him a couple weeks after our visit, and nothing availed out of it. So the other two properties, Golden Corral and the Applebee's, are both companies that are based out of Arizona. And we had brief conversation with the Applebee's, and said that he was going to speak to his higher ups or their board or their panel and reach back out to us, and that hasn't happened, and that's been 6 weeks now. So during that conversation with them as well, they had no idea where their business was going to be going because of COVID. The restaurants of Golden Corral and Applebee's are basically on the verge of financial hardship. So that's how that went about. During that time, then we were explained that we could move forward with a change of zone, not being the actual owner of this property. And that's why we're here today. During that, as a developer, and going back and forth with a designer who is also here, the struggle was the 300-foot setback from the I-1 industrial zoning towards the H3. That being said, it is a longer lot of 1.83 acres. And in order to achieve that 300-foot setback, it would force us to basically high density and stack all of the units along the western side, and then leave the remaining part of the lot as a concrete parking lot or some type of a playground. This is not desirable. This is not aesthetically appeasing, and is also not recommended by the city or by planning department. So that's why we're here today. This is where we're at with it. If you have questions, I'll answer some questions.
Questions for the applicant? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. At this time, we would entertain any testimony in support of the application. Any testimony in support? Okay, please come on forward.
Hello.
Welcome.
My name's Deanna Elliker.
Could you state your address for us?
4030 North 57th, here in Lincoln. I'm for the proposal. I think that it doesn't create a spot zoning issue. It's a continuation of an R4 that's existing, abutting to the property. The property's been vacant for some time. I'm aware of the situation with the sale, and I've spoken with the owner previously, and we've tried to work with the planning to figure out something. And there again, the setbacks and the buffer areas present issues with having some, viable project there. And instead of having a vacant property that's, like you said, not very desirable for the city, doesn't really create any value for the city, I'd rather see something there that's going to be, like I say, a continuation of something that's already existing and a good use of the project or the property. And I think that it seems like it's going to be a decent project for the city. So that's why I'm for it. Any questions?
Questions for the testifier?
Thank you.
No, thank you so much for coming up. Anyone else here wishing to testify in support? Come on down.
My name is Jennifer Hurt. I am the current owner, and I'm very much for this.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Anyone else wishing to testify in support? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to testimony in opposition. Anyone here wishing to testify in opposition? And I'm assuming we don't have anyone on Zoom.
We only I believe we had the applicants listed on Zoom.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. All right, seeing no testimony in opposition, any staff questions at all? Commissioners?
I might ask Rachel just one quick question, if you don't mind. When we're looking at the difference of the I-1 and the and the H3, it appears that it's real similar other than some of those major items that we just talked about with the health and safety of the people. Is there anything that we're missing with the change of this, since Applebee's and those restaurant owners haven't gotten back?
Well, you're correct. The uses that would be eliminated with this are those industrial uses, basically the heavy industrial uses. Otherwise, both districts allow a broad range of office and commercial uses.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Rachel? Okay. Any other questions for the applicant at all? Or applicant, would you like to say anything further? Okay, very good.
I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second, Finnegan.
Gary?
Okay, Campbell,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes,
Raymond Yost,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Entertain a motion on the,
I would move that we approve the change of zone. Trying to get back to the number.
I'm getting there too. 20024.
20024.
Is there a second?
Second, Finnegan.
Comments?
You want to start?
Go ahead.
I'm in favor of supporting the motion, and I will support the motion. I think that the real gem here is to protect the existing housing, as Chris mentioned. The proposed development is a bonus in my mind, but I think that we should, I'm very appreciative to the city staff, both planning and health department, for finding a way to make a vacant lot developable for a terrific use, but also for finding a way to really create that separation between the I and the R zones. It's a really nice thing, and it's a really great attempt and a solution for what is really a larger scale planning issue that we're able to solve here. So I think it's a great thing. So I'm definitely going to support and approve, or support it.
Commissioner Campbell?
Todd, thanks. I also will be supporting this. As Dennis has stated, here was a vacant lot that sat there for several years. And through the creativity of the property owner and the planning department and health department, they've come up with a great solution that is going to add tax base to the city and will provide housing in that area.
Other commissioners? Okay. The only, I will be supporting the motion as well. The only item that I'd like to add that hasn't been mentioned before is this is not a final action by this commission. So I do think that if the existing neighborhood or the existing owners to the east of this particular housing rezoning and the ones that are being rezoned to H3 from I-1, if they did have complaints, I think that it would be a valid discussion to be had at the city council level. And they have been notified, they ought to be aware of it, but if they were to come forward at the city council level, I think it would be a fair discussion for them to say, I purchased property that was zoned I-1, I had the belief that it would remain I-1, and then they can go forward from there. But if they have no objection, then surely I think this is a good solution. So, Jerry, please
Okay,
call
this
them.
is for the approval of changes zone 20024. Campbell,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Joy,
yes,
Raymond Yost,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak on an item that's not on the agenda can do so at this time. Looks like I don't have anyone that wants to speak on any other items, so I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we adjourn.
second, Joy,
Gary?
Okay. Campbell,
Yes.
Finnegan,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Ryman Yost,
Yes.
Shear,
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.